Hi everyone, welcome to Puppy Socialization during Level 4 Lockdown, our webinar. My name is Erin Jones and I'm from Merit Dog Project and I'm here with Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria from Canine by Nature, and it was really important to Erin and I that during this really unusual time that we were able to bring you something helpful for your brand new puppies.
Yeah, so we're going to start by talking about puppy development. So all puppies go through a critical socialization period, and this is just a really critical time in their life when they're developing and their brains are developing and they're creating all these new neural pathways in their brain to all sorts of different experiences in their environment. And this critical socialization period starts at about 3 weeks of age, so before you even get them. And it lasts till about 16 weeks of age, so still quite young. And so if you get your puppy around 8 weeks of age, and maybe you got your puppy just before the lockdown started, it's important to remember that we need to properly socialize them, and there are going to be some issues with that, of course, because we're in lockdown and we can't maybe attend puppy class or get out and experience the world in quite the same way we could have a few weeks ago, or hopefully will again in a few more weeks. But we're going to come up with some different creative ways that we can still socialize our puppy during the lockdown period. So a lot of learning during this time, really mental time, and I also want puppies go through fear periods as well, and they go through 2 different fear periods. So if you got your puppy just before lockdown, that's generally how the fear period actually starts. And a fear period is just a time when they're extra sensitive and unsure about their environment and different things. They might be a little bit fearful of things that they weren't fearful of before. And often the first one I find, the one between 8 and 10 weeks of age, a lot of people don't even really notice because puppies are still quite young. They're sleeping a lot. They're kind of curious, but they're also a bit cautious by nature. A lot of them are and don't even really notice, and that's great. We just want to make everything really easy and fun for our puppies during this time, during the whole time, but extra special during these fear periods. The second one happens a little bit later. So if you have an older puppy, you might notice that all of a sudden your puppy, who is super confident, is a lot less confident than she was last week. Maybe she's worried about people or being handled, or she's afraid of other dogs all of a sudden. And it seems really strange to you because she was really confident before. This is likely a second fear period, and this can happen anywhere between about 6 months of age and 16 months of age. So there's a lot of variance there. But it's just really important. This one's probably going to be a little bit more noticeable to you because you've gotten to know your puppy, you've done a lot of work with your puppy, and she was feeling really confident, and then all of a sudden she's not as confident as she was. So it's just, again, really important that we don't put them in a situation where they're feeling nervous or they could be traumatized or have a bad experience, because this could be life-lasting. For example, say you've been working with your puppy, handling her paws, clipping her nails, and she's been doing really, really well. And then all of a sudden, she's not really confident about it anymore. She might be going through a fear period. And say you're clipping nails during this fear period and you clip a little bit too close. And it's painfully a single learning experience for her where she is traumatized enough by this experience because she was in a fear period, because she was so sensitive, that it's a life, that it lasts the rest of her life and forever. She's really nervous and afraid of nail clippers. So it's just a word of caution to be extra careful during this time. A lot of people think puppy socialization is just about introducing their puppies to as many different people and maybe other puppies as they can. And that's really only a small part of puppy socialization. So really what we're doing is we are exposing our puppies in a very positive and fun way to as many different experiences and environments and objects and people and sounds and different things like that that we can think of and that they might experience during their lifetime or maybe not even experience again. And this way they can learn that these things are fine, these are great, they're not scary. And this can help our puppies turn into well-adjusted adult dogs. It also helps them learn different cues and signals from other puppies when they're playing with other puppies, as well as when they're interacting with people. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And I really like this quote here by the late Dr. Sophia Yin. She was a veterinary behaviorist, and she has some great insight about puppy socialization. And at the end of this quote, she says, puppies who do not get adequate socialization during this period tend to be fearful of unfamiliar people or dogs or sounds, objects, and environments. And this is especially true. And as a dog behavior consultant, oftentimes when I get called in to see an adult dog that has maybe some phobias, is anxious or fearful, oftentimes these dogs have not been properly socialized as puppies during this critical period. Sometimes it's a matter of, a late adoption. There's a plethora of reasons that this could be, but this is often the case with dogs that have developed fears and phobias later in life. As we're going through the different sort of checklist of socialization for your puppy, I want you to think about, first is we want our puppy to be able to approach the object or person or whatever it is we're exposing our puppy to on their own terms and be able to retreat on their own. So they should make the choice to experience it or be as far or as close as they want to be, and to be able to leave if they're feeling uncertain. Giving them that choice and that option and allowing them to move at their own pace is incredibly important to make it a positive experience. We don't want to force them into any types of situations. And some puppies, of course, are going to be a lot more confident than others. And some puppies you're going to find that they breeze through this checklist, no problem. But it's still really important that we do the checklist and we expose them to as much as we can. But some puppies are going to be a little bit more cautious or nervous, and that's okay too. So just allowing your own puppy to move at her own pace. It's also really important to make the experiences a very positive one. And to do this, we pair it with lots of praise and fun and excitement, and we can play games about it. We can play with a tug toy or whatever our puppy really likes, and also pair with really yummy food. And yummy food is a really important one. I notice we don't have just food there, it's yummy food, because high value food is really important. We want it to be something, not just their regular kibble that they can, eat whenever they want. We want to make it really special. So it could be anything that your puppy really loves. So it could be yogurt or peanut butter, or it could be little tiny bits of cheese or chicken or hot dogs. Whatever your puppy really loves. You can even mix in some kibble in there too, so that you're rationing her food and some high value treats. But if something is particularly scary for your puppy, that's when you want to definitely pull out those high value treats. If she's not as nervous and she's having a good time, maybe just playing and or her kibble will be enough in those situations. Puppies also need a lot of sleep. It helps with their brain development, it helps with learning, and it also helps with physical restoration. And puppies need that. They're growing and their bones are growing, and physically their bodies are changing. So you need to allow for lots of naps throughout the day. And puppies generally sleep a lot, like anywhere between 16 and 22 hours a day, depending on your puppy. So you might want to do some play, training, and then have nap time. And then, kind of rinse, wash, and repeat that whole scenario. So lots of naps throughout the day is a really good idea. Some tips for helping your puppy nap. Make them a really comfortable and safe napping spot where they aren't disturbed, especially if you have other pets or if you have children. This is a really important one. When they're starting to get tired, sometimes they actually get a little bit more aroused and excited, because it's kind of that, sugar high before you crash. So just at that time, you can take them and put them into their safe spot. Maybe give them something quiet and calm to do until they fall asleep. And if your puppy is asleep, don't wake them. Let them sleep. They need it, but also it can be really startling and scary. I mean, I don't like to be waken up. I'm sure our puppies don't as well. And co-sleeping at night is absolutely fine if that's what you want to do. And by co-sleeping, I mean having them in your bed, or having them in a bed beside your bed, or in your kennel beside your bed, whatever works in your situation. My puppy has slept in my bed since the day I got her. She slept wonderfully all night, and it's never been an issue for us. She's not a very big dog though, so if you have a Saint Bernard or a Great Dane, perhaps that's not the best option for you. So it's totally a personal choice, but it's not a bad choice to make, because if you think about it, we've taken our puppies from sleeping with their state, and that's really comforting for them, and taking them out of that space and putting them in a space with nobody but us. So I think that co-sleeping can be really comforting, especially for a new puppy. Also, it's really important at any time of the year that you get a puppy to teach them to be alone, but also something to think about during this lockdown period when we're home all the time. But we're going to have to eventually, most of us have to eventually go back to work. And but this is great because you're home right now and you can teach them that being alone is not a big deal. And we do this really slowly and systematically. I'm just going to kind of move this around as I talk. Now's the time. Now's a great time. And honestly, I wish everybody could take a couple of weeks off work when they get a new puppy, because this is a really important thing to do in order to prevent our puppies from getting separation anxiety. So some things to think about: get that space set up for your puppy, a comfortable space. It might include a kennel, it might be an X pen, a nice comfortable bed, some things to do while you're not there. Could be something like a stuffed Kong, or something like a Nylabone if your puppy likes to chew, like mine. Those are great options and fairly safe to leave with your puppy. So get your space set up and then start with alone time in that space, but with you still in the room. And just a few seconds, and that's all you really need. And then you can open the door and, great, good job. And then repeat throughout the day as much as you can. And you want to slowly walk away from that space and provide more distance. And you want to slowly add more time to the time that they're in their space without you there. And you want to build this up to maybe minutes, and maybe going into another room to do your work, and actually leaving the house, and practice some of those cues as well about, like, when you're going to leave the house, such as picking up your keys or putting on your coat or putting on your shoes, so that those things aren't signaling, uh-oh, mom's gonna leave and that's time for me to panic. It's just make them not a big deal. So those are some things we can do to help your puppy feel confident in her new space and being left alone, and teaching her to be independent, because that's something that every puppy needs to learn, because they're not independent when we first get them. And of course, bonding is really important, but this is equally as important, because unfortunately, as human beings, we have to go to work and earn a living, and it's just part of our life and their life as well. So I have a video here. Show you.
Stop some little mincy climbing over her playpen. Here is another little goodie button. Good girl. Just want you to become like yourself.
So that's a really nice setup there. There's a couple of beds in there. You might, if you're leaving for longer periods of time, you might want to consider leaving a pee pad down for your puppy, away from their food and water, and away from their bed. If they're older, then maybe you don't want to leave that down if they're accomplished at potty training at this point. But if they're still young, a pee pad's not a bad idea. And leave some safe toys for them as well. Some puzzle toys, stuffed Kongs are fantastic. And Maria is going to talk about enrichment in a little bit, so she can give you some extra ideas there as well.
To stop some.
Ooh, sorry. So some challenges that we're going to run into during the lockdown period is that we can't really interact with other people and animals and go to new places, because we're all stuck in our bubble. And so it's a bit more challenging for us during this particular time. And so what are some of the things that maybe we can do to overcome this? I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to have to try and do the best that we can given our situation. So here are some ideas. Taking some time appropriate walks with your puppy in different directions, in different locations, and time appropriate just depends on how old your puppy is and you know, how much they can handle, not just mentally but physically as well. And if they're really young or they haven't had they've only maybe had their first set of vaccines and you're a little bit nervous because there's a lot of dogs, unknown dogs out there right now particularly, you can use a backpack or a push chair or even carry them in your arms if you're worried about it. And if they're comfortable with that, of course. So we don't want to scare them. But also getting them just out in your front yard is a great idea, because if it's anything like my house, there's a lot of people walking around my neighborhood. And so they get exposed to seeing different dogs and people and children and stuff like that. And take them to an on-lead park where they might see other people or dogs, but you still have that space where you're safe in your bubble, but they can still see and have a good experience around other people and other dogs. So you can feed them some treats and play some games, make it really fun, do a little training session if you can, maybe some loose leash skills, that type of thing. And allowing them to experience as many different sights, sounds, smells, and textures as you can think of. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to even leave your house to do a lot of those things. And we're going to talk more about those in a few minutes. And dress up in many different looks as you can. You'd be surprised about how many puppies are nervous about people wearing hoodies or wearing hats or having a backpack because they've just never experienced it during this critical socialization time. So try on all these different things. So sunglasses and hats and hoodies and backpacks and uniforms and walking sticks and shoes and boots and just anything that you can think of that makes you or other people in your bubble look different. Halloween costumes is a great one if you have some at home. Let them see and experience those as well. So that's kind of a fun one as well. Exposing them to people and other dogs, again, is like we said, it's going to be a real challenge right now. But there are a few things that you can possibly do, depending on where you are, that might help you during this process. Some vet clinics, if they have the time, now I know that they're very busy at this particular time because they're kind of down to a skeleton staff, but if they have the time, they may very well allow you to bring your puppy to the clinic. You may have to stay outside, maybe not, maybe yes, but they might be able to come and play with your puppy a little bit or interact with your puppy and just have a good experience around new people because they're handling puppies anyhow and they have a very safe protocol put in place. Also, contactless walks. So I kind of mentioned that already. So going to the park or even just down your street, but not having contact, of course, having them on a leash and not having contact with other people or dogs, but seeing them. And again, in your front yard is a great place to do that as well, especially if they can see through your fence or, you know, if you don't have a big wall in front of your house, that's a great way for them to not just see other people and other dogs, but to smell them and to hear them as well. Like I said, my neighborhood is crazy busy right now with people and children and just stuff happening. And so it would be a great time to have a new puppy out in my yard. She's still safe in my bubble. She's not being exposed to any pathogens that might be out there if she hasn't had all her vaccines. And she can still experience and have a good time while she's experiencing these sights and sounds. And car rides. So I think it's important to get, of course, your puppy used to being in the car anyhow, and just, you know, do this in a slow, systematic way. Make sure they're safe and happy in your car. You don't even have to go anywhere the first few times, but once they're really enjoying the car, it's a great way to get them out and they can kind of see what's happening in different parts of your neighborhood and through the windows and things going by, or cyclists, you know, biking beside the car or walking beside the car, that kind of thing. So that's another good way to do it as well, just to get them out but not having contact. We also want to make sure that we're handling our puppies during this time and getting them used to that, because it inherently is part of life. They're going to have to be handled for certain things throughout their lives, whether it's to, you know, pick them up and take them somewhere to clip their nails, at the vet clinic, if they need a bath, if they need to be groomed, if they need their paws wiped off because they're muddy. These types of things are normal everyday types of handling situations that we want our puppies to be comfortable with. So again, we're going to pair with super yummy, high value treats. So this is where you want to pull out all the good stuff, the peanut butter and the, that's a good one. Just make sure there's no seasoning on it. And so you're going to pair those yummy treats with things like petting them and picking up their paws and doing a nose to tail exam. So, look in their eyes and pull up their lips and look in their ears and touch them all over their body and pick up each foot and, move their tail around. Those are the types of things that a vet might have to do when they're going in for an exam. Touching their mouth and face, brushing, oral care. It's good to get them used to that toothbrush nice and early. One thing that I like to do is to put a little bit of something like cream cheese on a toothbrush, and then it makes the toothbrush really yummy and fun for your puppy. Just make sure that you're not coming straight at them, because that's really confronting for your puppy. I like to kind of come around, have them settled between my legs and kind of come around gently with the brush and allow them to explore it that way. Just remember, when you're coming straight over a puppy, that can be really, really scary. Also, getting toweled off, bath time. We can make bath time fun. Just get a little pan, put a little tiny bit of water in there, let them go in and play with some toys and explore and have some yummy treats. That's a really good way to start that whole process. And of course, putting harness on, collars, leashes, those things can be scary, especially at the beginnings, this foreign thing around their neck, around their body. So take your time and get them really comfortable with those things. And of course, nail clipping, just holding even, cradling them, wrapping them in a towel, just as much handling as you can during this time. And if they're worried about it or scared, please take your time and please remember your high value treats. We also want to expose them to lots of different surfaces. And this, again, is a fairly easy one to do at home. And it's funny because we don't really think of these things as human beings. We go from carpet to hardwood and to tile, and it's not a big deal. But it can be for our puppies because it's totally new experience. And I've seen this before where a dog has lived in a carpeted home their whole lives, and then the family moves, and their new home doesn't have any carpet, it has tiles and hardwood, and that's slippery and it's cold and it feels different and it can be scary. So allowing your puppy to experience all these different types of surfaces is a really good idea. So this could be like mud, it could be grass, it could be gravel and rocks, stones, sand, pavement, tiles, hardwood, carpet, different plastic, paper, rubber, all of those different things, metal, shiny things, different colored surfaces. All of those things are important for them to experience. And another thing I always like to add in here, especially for New Zealanders, because they don't really think of this because you don't really get snow here, but where I'm from in Canada, we do. And if we get a puppy, say in the summer and they don't get to experience snow, then that first snowfall can actually be really scary for a lot of dogs who are already maybe 6 months old by this point. So of course that's not necessarily something we can do unless we can create fake snow, but just something to keep in mind and just a good example of how not exposing our puppies to certain things can be scary later in life. So now I'm going to hand it over to Maria, who's going to talk to you and continue on about the different types of socialization.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone. This is just really one of my most favorite times of a dog's life, and it's so much fun. Puppies are fun anyway. Puppies are like super, super cute, but the socialization period is something I'm really passionate about. And what we are looking to do with these things that we're talking about is teach our puppies to be comfortable in the world and confident when they're exposed to novel things. So that doesn't mean to say they're not going to be scared when they come across some new thing in the environment, but it means that their bounce back or how they respond to it is going to be positive. One of the things that is quite important that often we don't think about is movement. The world moves. Things move, people move, and so we don't want movement to be scary. We want movement to be normal. So being mindful of all the things that, as Erin was saying earlier, we take for granted. Things that move, that are not natural to the dogs. They require introductions, again, pairing with something really, really yummy or some fun games, so that the emotional response our puppies are making to these things is super positive. So things that move in our world, skateboards, scooters, bikes, cars, trucks, buses, motorbikes, any of these things that you have at home or that come past your driveway that you can introduce your puppy to will be great. Having them watch from a distance while chewing on something yummy is perfect. Throwing balls or toys around the house, the yard, kids playing, making sure that your pup learns that people move, sometimes fast, sometimes slowly, and in all sorts of strange positions. So standing, kneeling, reaching up high, reaching out in front, standing on things like chairs and ladders, running past the dog, that can be a big one for some adult dogs, doing exercise, a big one for some humans like me, clapping, shaking blankets, shaking towels, all those kind of movements. If you can introduce your puppy, to that now, will be less scary when they're dogs. If you can let them experience unstable surfaces underfoot, so that is something like a wobble board, a rocking chair, even just if they're walking over cushions that are kind of moving under their paws, climbing up on cardboard boxes. You only want to do it just for a few seconds, and you want them to make the move to do it themselves. You don't want to be picking them up and popping them on there. And if it is something like, if you think, oh, I might just see if my puppy wants to have a bit of a go on the skateboard, how I would do that is, first of all, I would let them investigate the skateboard, give them some treats. If they start getting interested, if they want to push it with their nose or their paws, give them some more treats and encourage them to be curious. And then if they want to kind of step up on it and it moves a little bit and they kind of like jump off and then they come back again, and you give them some more treats. And slowly, with those incremental steps, you can positively introduce them to something like a skateboard. And then, you'll be making YouTube videos in 2 years' time. Another thing to think about are things that move in the sky. So balloons, and I know that most supermarkets and dairies sell balloons, so that is something you can get your hands on during lockdown. Kites, baby mobiles, anything that there are a few planes and helicopters flying around. If you can introduce them to that, and rubbish bins, things that might blow in the wind. Plastic bags used to be a big one, but we don't have as many plastic bags now, which is good. And shadows at night. If puppies aren't used to going out at night and they get taken out for the first time when they're older, things like shadows and lights can be novel. And what we want them to do is just for that novelty to be normal. Similarly, we want to make sure that people doing things with inanimate objects, stuff that we do in our day-to-day life, is not a big deal for your puppy, so that you can reinforce your puppy for being curious and brave when they approach you doing these things, and you can let them check it out and move away and have a think about it. I've just got a little video here of an example of the wobble board. It's a wobbler thing. So a lot of people have these. I know that you may be able to get them online, but it really is so good for puppy and as they grow into adult dogs, their proprioception. Teaching dogs to be aware of where their body is in time and space is really important. And what I've experienced a lot with reactive dogs, generally I've found that they have no idea what they're doing with their bodies. So teaching them to be aware of their bodies is something that's super, super important, like the little pup there. And going on to the inanimate objects, hair dryers, DIY tools. Apparently there's loads of people at the moment doing the DIY, so here you go, perfect. Gardening, cooking, loads of people cooking at the moment. Mowing lawns, putting up the umbrella. Things like this that we take for granted, and that we would just bring a puppy into our house and continue our normal life doing these things without stopping to just be mindful of the fact that this is something that dogs in a natural environment outside of a kind of a pet home would never experience. Two things that very common in setting off dogs are brooms and the vacuum cleaner. So how you would want to do this as well is you would want to perhaps lay the broom on the floor, scatter it with treats, let your puppy have a bit of a sniff around, then pick up the broom, hold on to the broom, scatter some treats, slowly introduce movement of the broom, and then a little bit of sweeping. So you kind of get the idea, it's small incremental steps of what the final activity looks like. With the vacuum cleaner, it's the noise as well. When you're older, you can teach your puppy, you know, to go and lie in their bed, go to their crate, do whatever while you're vacuuming. But right now, we just want them to learn that these things are not scary. Not being able to, you can see the guy there carrying the boxes, and not being able to see faces is something that many dogs can be reactive to. And you will often hear people say that their dogs, and as Erin was talking about earlier, don't like people in hoodies or with helmets on, and suddenly they growl when you're like bringing in the washing. So that's because they can't see your face. So if you start now, just by carrying boxes and bags in front of you where they can't see your face, and talking to them, giving them some treats while they're curious, happy little puppies, it's going to be less of a big deal to them when they're adults. And just make sure you don't trip up on your puppy, because that would be not what we're looking for you to do. Now, noises. At this age, while your puppy is vulnerable to single exposure learning, and that means that they can make a lifelong association with something after just one experience, as Erin was saying earlier, we want to make sure that that experience is positive and fun. And this is especially true when it comes to sounds. Gentle exposure to a wide variety of noises will prevent possible issues down the line, such as reactivity and fear to thunder and fireworks, which sadly is very common with a lot of adult dogs, loud noises and different accents. And we live in a fabulous multicultural society, and often down my street there'll be people walking down the road with various accents, and you can hear certain dogs barking when they do that because they're just not used to hearing them. So because we're in isolation, in lockdown, it's not possible for you to access, we know, the usual noises of the world, but that doesn't make it totally helpless. There are apps such as Soundproof Puppy Training that you can use to start at a very quiet volume, moving up to a loud volume if your puppy is happy with where you're at, and pairing each sound again with something yummy, or a game, or some hide and seek. What you want to do is just, be conscious that the sound is coming from the speakers, which is different from the natural source. Thunder in the sky does sound different from thunder coming through the speakers, but at least the thing is, what you're doing is getting your puppy used to hearing novel sounds, which is the most important thing. It's the repetition of the novel sounds, so that when we're back out in the world again and they hear these things, your dog is used to hearing, your puppy, sorry, used to hearing novel sounds, and you're used to, by now, positive ways of teaching them how to get used to it. So when we get back out there, it will be a breeze because you've already been practicing it during lockdown. So things that we look at: normal, soft, and loud voices in particular if you are a very loud family, like me. Music, various types of music. Often you'll find that your puppy will really enjoy a bit of classical music and actually might just pop off to sleep. Kids playing, screeching, yelling, like kids moving, is something that's very, very big, and something we want to teach puppies as a positive thing, and they don't need to kind of always be getting out there, getting involved in it. That's just what the kids do. Doorbells and door knocking, you can definitely do during this time. Dogs barking, we've got dogs barking around the neighbourhood, a couple of which are mine, and the neighbours talking. We've got neighbours outside, eating outside at the moment. Cars, the few cars driving up and down, garbage trucks are still coming, and courier vans are still coming. Beeping of the car reversing, sirens, thunder, firework, house alarms, smoke alarms, all those kinds of things. If you can start introducing your pup to those different noises now, it's just going to make them so much more relaxed to noises when they're adult dogs. Now, one of my another favourite one is smells. Puppies are born with their sense of smell. Their ears and eyes open later. So as they grow, their olfactory bulb becomes 10% of their brain, right? So this is huge. And we'll talk about that again in a minute. But what we want puppies to grow into dogs who are good at using their nose and who have the opportunity to do so. And whilst that sounds like it's something that, but don't they just naturally do it? You'd be amazed at how many puppies have actually lost the art of sniffing and finding, and being used to new and novel smells. So what we want at this age is to introduce them to as many wonderful and diverse smells as we can. So an interesting fact, actually, one of the fallouts from the 2004 tsunami comes from the search and rescue efforts, and that what they discovered was that different nationalities, though it kind of makes sense, smell differently because we eat different food. And so tragically, they discovered that if dogs were coming from a certain place, say if they were coming from a Mediterranean area where they just kind of have a, kind of cucumber and tomato and salad and all those really good things, and they're coming to another country where, say, hot, spicy food might be the diet, it was a challenge for the dogs to be able to find them. So what I think is a really good idea during this lockdown period is that you kind of do a 30 days, however long we're in it for, 30 days around the world, cooking different foods, wearing different scents, using different products. I would encourage you to be adventurous and look at something to barbecues or curries or stews, pasta, salads, Mexican food, seafood, fruit, different teas. I'm pretty sure at the supermarkets you can buy different incense and candles, body washes, soaps. And if any of these things are tricky, if your puppy's thinking, well, I might like to get in there and really chew that, you can always put a little bit in a Ziploc bag and just open it for your puppy to smell. You can spray stuff or put stuff onto an old rag or an old tea towel so that they can have a smell of it. Take something like a bit of a smidge of Marmite, jam, gravy, any peanut butter, and just kind of smear it on the wall outside, a pot outside, something that you're comfortable with the puppy licking so that they can smell and lick it. And that not only enhances their sense of smell, which is something that you want to continue to do throughout their whole lives, but it is very enriching for them. And so enrichment is the next thing that I'd really like to talk about. And so what does that mean? So we've done all these socialization exercises, and now we're talking about enrichment. And yes, the socialization exercises are also enriching for your puppies. But what enrichment also means is providing them the opportunity to live full lives by being able to engage in a variety of species typical, so those dog behaviors, in positive ways through activities that encourage them to continue to be curious as they grow and confident in their problem solving. And that's something that I just want to take a moment to talk about, is that during this time, which is different from any other time with a little puppy, it's super important that you're conscious that if you're encouraging a puppy to be confident, to be curious, and to engage in the world, then that's the best thing you can do for your puppy. Because when you go back out into the world, you're taking a happy, stable puppy out. And so all the new things of the high street full of people and motorways and roadworks and construction are going to be less challenging than they would have been if you didn't follow this program. So with enrichment, our goal is to take advantage of that new growing brain in a way that will deliver huge benefits later in your puppy's life. And research has shown us that animals who grow up in an enriched environment have bigger brains with more neural connections. Why is that important? Because one of the areas we target with our enrichment is called the prefrontal cortex. Okay, yes, it's one of my favorite areas. I talk about it a lot. But that's because it's the area that is responsible for impulse control and problem solving. And two very important things with little puppies, especially as they grow, that impulse control. So by engaging in these activities, you're giving them a great advantage over other puppies in the future. Activities that encourage your puppy to think for themselves and problem solve will help them grow into stable, content adult dogs, as Erin said earlier. And in this current environment, that's the best that we can do. Other benefits from enrichment is boredom busters. You know, this is a great time, I hope, that people will stop and think, wow, I've just been sitting inside all day and going for one walk a day for the last 4 weeks, and I'm kind of bored and I really can't wait to get back to work or see my girlfriends or do whatever. And a lot of dogs, that's their lives. That's all they get to do. So it's no wonder that they find other means or other ways of entertaining themselves. And then Erin and I get a call. But what we don't want to get a call. What we want is we want you to be continuing to provide enrichment for them, so that they, throughout their lives, so that they don't get bored, so that you're continuing to promote learning for them through investigation. And also, you know, these exercises burn up a huge amount of energy. The brain drain for your puppies versus, you know, a physical walk or run is huge, as you will find as you go through the exercises or the socialization things that we've been talking about. So something that is a huge part of this, and talking about olfactory bulbs and sniffing, and is bowls are for water, not food. And I'm really into that throwing your bowl away if you're feeding from a food bowl. And the reason we do this is because if you're using a bowl, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to provide enrichment, promote brain growth, problem-solving skills, and burn up heaps of your puppy's energy. So what you want to do instead, and I've just popped in a few videos here to give you some ideas of just really easy things to do at home with stuff that you'll have, because I know if you just sprinkle your puppies, even just the kibble, this is just little Pear's kibble, which was sprinkled in between some toys and under a blanket. And she loved doing this. The towel, here we go, we've got a box which is just full really of just paper that is around, and they can kind of snuffle around and find it, scatter their food, throw it out onto the back lawn or tiles or your bathroom if you're in an apartment, allowing them to really engage that seeking system, that scavenging that puppies and dogs developed to do. And here we have just a hand towel, because just a little pup, roll up some kibble or some treats and just let them explore, let them try and figure out how to find that food. And if you get into the habit of doing this now and you continue throughout your dog's life into adulthood, you're going to have really happy dogs and you're going to have loads of fun feeding them. And it keeps them busy for ages. If you've got a little puppy and you're at home and you want to keep them busy, there are some of the pet stores are open online, so you can order all sorts of Kongs or activities, puzzles for your dogs online. And if you're doing that with food, they should be delivered, but you don't have to spend the money. You can just make up simple things like this at home. You can make up an obstacle course with tins of food or toilet paper rolls, because apparently everyone's got loads of toilet paper at the moment. Your puppy might actually like to chew on the toilet paper, but there's another experience. If you're getting your puppy to go up and down stairs or over ramps or boxes or things, just try to make sure that they're no higher than your puppy's knee height. Just want to be conscious of their growth plates and not doing any like jumping off sofas or beds or things like that, which potentially can cause damage to those, and then the vets will be super cross, mainly with me. So you can hang sheets over your dining table and let your puppy crawl through like a tunnel. I just got some old milk bottles the other day and put a broom handle through and made like a little jump so that the dogs can kind of practice walking over or jumping over or biting on it, doing anything they like. Letting them play and rip up toys if they really like doing it. You know, if they like digging, find them a spot in their garden, which can be their spot to dig. And play with your puppy. It's, you know, have fun, and it's really bonding. It makes you feel good, it makes them feel good. And Erin and I both you know, really into that positive having fun with your dogs and creating dogs that are confident to communicate with you and know that you're listening. Provide natural appropriate chews, especially if they're teething, if they start doing that while you're in lockdown, so that they know if you've got a pig's ear or a deer ear, or you've got all sorts of stuff that's not too hard, because we don't want them moving around their second adult teeth. But that will save you, you know, a fortune on shoes and sofas and table legs if you can just redirect them to something more appropriate. And so more on that creating a puppy that remains confident to communicate with you is capturing all the awesome things that your puppy does. And stop looking, and the thing that we often find with people, especially when they have little puppies, is they're like, oh, he does this or that, or she did this or she did that, and they haven't actually stopped to think, wow, this really cute little puppy was just lying down inside watching TV quietly with the family. I think I should reinforce that. And that's what we want to do. Stop looking for things that are, to put a label on it, wrong, and start looking for all the really lovely things your puppies do that's right, and reinforce it. And this is, it's kind of a paradigm shift in our world, which is kind of a comfortable, punitive world. But if you get into the habit now of looking for and reinforcing just only the good, you know, just all the great things that your puppy does, then, you know, it's setting you up for a lovely relationship for the next 15 years, you know. And Erin is also very, very pro that, along with myself. You want to, when your puppy is making good choices, what you perceive to be good choices, you want to reinforce that so that your dog has the confidence, self-confidence to make those choices again. And watching for these opportunities, as I said, you know, if your dog picks up their chewy instead of your shoe, if they're not snatching a treat from your hand, if they're going to the toilet outside, if they're going onto their bed, you know, they are the best puppies in the world. So, you know, you want to just reinforce that with them. Another thing that often gets missed with puppies is capturing calm. And puppies can be super hyped, super excited. And as Erin was saying right at the beginning of the webinar, it's not just about, you know, puppies meeting and playing with lots and lots of puppies and lots of dogs and people, is that puppies know how to play. They know how to get revved up and excited. What benefits them more and what is more beneficial to your home life is to capture them when they're being calm. Teach them to be calm puppies. And that doesn't stop them having fun. That doesn't stop them being playful. It's just, it teaches them something which they're not going to learn all by themselves, because as a puppy, you know, why should they? But what we want to do is say, when you're living in our home with you, we prefer you to be just nice and calm. We don't want you hanging off the other dog's faces all day, because eventually they get annoyed. We don't want you kind of just running around and being crazy and chewing and attention seeking and doing all those cool things. We're super happy when you're just lying down next to the cat hanging out. And so this is just a little video of capturing calm with a really little puppy and two adult dogs, one big one and one small one who's smaller than little Pia, the puppy there. But what I was doing here was really reinforcing her for not running and jumping up and being all super minxy with the big dogs. We just really wanted her to offer us some nice, calm behavior, same as the big dogs, and then reinforce it, reinforce it, reinforce it. And of course, we're reinforcing the other big dogs for being good dogs as well. So that is, if you have any questions on any of these things, I know that Erin and myself are on Facebook, Instagram, all these things. I'll just bring Erin back in now.
So much. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so please, you know, if you've got questions on any of these things, because it's such an important time, please get in contact with us.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find, you can find me at my website, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and also through the University of Canterbury, where I'm doing my PhD research. And so if you have questions or concerns, reach out to us. We're always happy to help. And we really appreciate you sharing this time with us. And hopefully this has been a helpful experience for you with your new puppy. And good luck.
Good luck and have fun.
Yes, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.